Okay, so I'm actually getting to kind of the line quality I think I'm going to mostly use, about this variation. I tried some really fancy stuff before, going really thin to thicker, using some stroke settings and then outlining them. All just trying stuff out to get some fun variation to it. So let me continue with that, with the blob brush. So in Illustrator, a lot of it is just getting the settings where you want them. And now what I can do, I'll just finish the blob brush up here, and then connect it with the top. Oh, that's kind of nice, actually. And then clean it up here, and then connect that with the top, because I'm wanting a fairly symmetrical design. That's one of the great advantages of doing it digitally. Now I can turn on my guide, which shows me the center, right? And except for the extreme outline, which I can isolate and lock, which is this, because that's already symmetrical in what I want, I'm going to select the other parts and I can hold down Shift and select multiples. Oh, and I don't want this one. Don't want the bird itself. I'm not sure what that is. Okay, and now I can also add this yellow layer in. So it's a little disorganized. And now I'm going to copy them, Command C. I'm going to turn them off in this layer. It's all about kind of organizing your thoughts. Lock that layer completely. Make a new layer. Everything else is locked except for my new layer. And I'm going to paste them in place. Edit, paste in place. So now all of these are kind of this hot pink. And what that allows me to do is to kind of clean them up, and then I'll copy them and flip them so I have perfect symmetry of this outside border, inside-outside border. And it makes a lot more sense when you're doing it for yourself. All right, so how do I want to clean this up? It's the only layer that's not locked, so it's the only one I can affect. Well, I have to look at the edges of it. Whoops. Let's get that back in there. I use spacebar and the hand tool to kind of move along. So I want to change this, so I'm going to use the pencil tool. And I'm going to draw through anchors to redraw certain edges. If I want this to be tighter, I'm going to do that with the pencil tool. If I need to smooth out that curve, I can do that with the pencil tool. If I want this to be tighter, again, pencil tool. I can use the smooth tool as well if I'm not confident of my hand's ability to smooth it out. The importance here is I'm working on both sides of the line. And in general, it's better to use the pencil tool because you can see the effects of it, whereas a smooth tool can sometimes have effects you're not immediately looking at. And the hardest thing I have with the pencil tool is getting sharp edges. So sometimes you just want to go in and use the pen tool to make those edges sharp, or just move individual anchor points around, like that, if you want really sharp. And remember, anchor points with handles, you decide how curved to keep them, and you can get rid of the handle on one side should you want to. Whoops, that didn't work out. What becomes hard when you're doing that is everything is so finite that you can end up with weirdness like I'm seeing right here. I need to collapse these different curves before I can move that anchor to where I want it. There we go. And the best thing I can say about Illustrator is you learn a lot messing with it. But it can certainly try your patience. And that's why my favorite tool is not using the anchors individually. It's just using that pencil, selecting it, and then kind of using the magic scissors to clean it up. If I turn my guide on, I find the guide first off, find the halfway point, using that V on the top, then I can actually use that to make a perfect cut along the vertical axis. And that will make for a cleaner copy and paste later. I don't need to erase a lot. So a lot of it has to do with just envisioning what you want and planning it out. And you need to play with it enough, even if you're just live tracing and scanning it. You need to play with it enough to figure out if you're one of those people that just loves Illustrator. This is what's been missing in your life, maybe. It's going to make everything better. You've always been frustrated by those other art materials. Haven't given you perfectly straight lines, perfectly clean curves. This is the program for you. And then I can always just hit the minus button, turn it to the anchor point delete tool, get rid of those, and then I wonder if this would work, just deleting these handles. Nope, that would be nice though. So to get rid of a handle, you have to use the small selection tool and you have to drag it directly to its source. All right, pencil tool all the way here. Pencil tool. So that's the only problem with the blob brush. I love how it makes one continuous line, but then you have to seam them together from the different times you use the brush. And that requires the pencil tool. And if it's a really complicated illustration, this can take a lot of time and energy. But it's all worth it. It's just tedious. And when you see tutorials of this kind of thing, of digital inking online, there's no real way to speed it up. You're either good with the tools or you're not, but because you don't want to make a lot of mistakes. But it still takes a long time, even if you're very skilled and very practiced. So this is where they always go to like a time-lapse video, which makes it all happen in like a minute. And I had tried that earlier on in the class, and for these really arduous things, I do them outside of class and just kind of show the class. So now I'm here, like a cooking show. Like you pull out the lasagna and it's perfect. That's a little intellectually dishonest, so I said I'm going to just show you the grunt work so that you know what to expect when you're doing it for yourself. Okay, so here, this is an interesting thing that can happen. I didn't connect with the blob brush. So those are two separate entities, so I need to connect them before I can redraw them with the pencil tool. Otherwise, they'll always stay separate. So the blob brush connects, the eraser tool can disconnect. And if they're not connecting, then I can use, I guess because they're just not connecting yet because the blob brush didn't create them both the same. So now I can use the Pathfinder tool to merge them. So there's all these kind of troubleshooting you have to find in order to get the effect you want. And I might use this opportunity to thicken out that line a little bit. I don't know if I want it quite so thin. Look how sloppy I am. Now, if you don't go through an anchor point on both ends, it will just redraw a shape with the pencil tool. Instead of revising it, it will just draw a new shape. So if I want to slim this down, I have to finish through an anchor point. Otherwise, that happens. Or at least near enough one that Illustrator can pick up on what you're trying to do. And then because that's a wobbly mess, I'm going to use the smooth tool. Clean it up. And it's no mystery what these do. The smooth tool just gets rid of anchor points it doesn't need. I could also try that myself. And then I can alter the curves myself. And then just go back to the pencil. It's a challenging angle for this curve to draw it. Okay. Now, especially because we are trying to learn something through this project and get stuff done, make this even more smooth. I'm not going to let being perfect and perfectionism get in the way of being able to show you all the things I want to show you. So I'm not going to take this to a completely perfect end. Nice thing about vector outlines is we can always keep working on them and keep cleaning them up. So I don't want you to get too obsessed with perfection either. I just want you to get introduced to its potential and find what works best for your ideas. Choose your battles. All right, so I've got the bottom half done of these interior outlines. I'm going to try to go a little bit faster and be less picky with the top half. It's not usually something I say, be less picky, but I am not one of those natural matches for Illustrator. I don't have the patience.